you for tuning in to the 2025 Crokinole World Cup third place match. This is a Tier 2 National Crokinole Association event out of Budapest, Hungary, and in this matchup we have Alejandro and Antonio from Spain in the black t-shirts, and up against them the roaring 20s, last year's Crokinole World Cup champions, Joert on the left and Sander across the board from him. Unfortunately for both these teams, despite well-played matches, they were unsuccessful in the semi-final round, but still get to duke it out for the third place spot. Alejandro and Antonio with the hammer in the first round of what will be, I believe, a race to 8 points. With a strong start for Antonio and Alejandro. 2 pieces on the board with the hammer. Joert rolling in, but not quite enough. That was very much online, but a 20 opportunity for Alejandro. Doesn't get it, and doesn't get the off with it either. We will see if that piece in the 5 comes to be very consequential in future shots. But Sander leaving a backboard for Antonio. Doesn't drop for him, passing on the opportunity to Joert, who gets it, and demoting 2 black pieces in the process as well. And Alejandro now having to play to the outside. See, like I said before, yeah, that red piece now forcing Alejandro to play to the outside just for a little bit now. Sander to play to a piece closer to him. Getting a 20. I did not see that. I thought maybe he'd be staying on the outside or just rolling in, but that was dead on. Very nice shot as the Roaring 20s take a 220 lead in the cup. Still 3 pieces on the board for the other team. Joert wisely keeping play to the outside. What I'm not sure of from this angle is if those 2 black pieces currently on the board, closer to the center, are fully in the 15 region, or if they're touching the line. Even so, Sander demoting 2 pieces, unable to get the off, and that could be costly, because we are getting pretty close to a point where Antonio and Alejandro have, I think now 40 points on the board, which has them perfectly tied, despite the 220 disadvantage. And there's going to be a bit of a cat and mouse game here where Sander and Joert are going to be looking for doubles for some cleanup, while Antonio and Alejandro hunt for 20s. Sander surveying the board. He's pointing to that far piece. He's not looking for a double right now. He's looking for a nice hide. There's so much clutter in the center right now that if Sander can find the right spot behind the post, it'll make it very difficult for Antonio to have a clear line at it. You may have heard this in the semifinal coverage, but Antonio was last year's Brugman Crokinole Doubles Championship winner. Now in the finals of another doubles tournament. That was a nice spot from Sander, but not nice enough, as Antonio gets a clear line at it without touching any of his pieces. You're looking for some cleanup, but that second piece doesn't go all the way off the board. Currently, Alejandro and Antonio, we'll see after a Sander shot. They have a total of 25 points on the board. If Antonio can take this off and stay in the 15, I believe that will be a tie round. That's 20 points, 2 in the 10. Then 1 in the 5, 1 in the 15. Yep, that is perfectly tied. Very well done by Alejandro and Antonio. Alejandro opening up the second round, the Roaring 20s, now with the hammer. We are off to the races. And while we haven't seen a lot of aggressive 20s races, at least through the semifinal rounds, I think it's safe to say that all the players around the board are very good at their open 20s. But Sander, the first to miss, leaving an opportunity for Antonio, who will be taking that up the right line of his quadrant, unable to convert. And a 20 chance passed on to Joert. We'll see if he's able to get this. Looks like he's going for the touch. He gets the off with it. Very nice shot. Tying it up in the cup. and we are right back to open 20s. Sander taking a second to look at the situation before continuing on in the race. Antonio now the first to miss in that second sprint. Joert, you see Sander's excitement as he gets off in the 20 with that. Bit of pressure on Alejandro and Antonio now. They need a miss out of the roaring 20s, and it doesn't seem like they are giving it. I believe this is, I want to say, one of the most 20s we've seen in these rounds so far. Both teams putting on quite the performance. But Alejandro not able to get the touch 20 he was looking for there. But a bit of a tricky shot here for Sander. He's going to have to be careful not to take out his own piece, or worse yet, have that black piece not go off the board. He gets the off, loses his shooter on the upside. That red piece isn't terribly close for Antonio. I'm a little bit skeptic about there being a drop back 20 there. Yeah, not quite. That might have gone, but not enough slide on that. Joert has to make a big decision here, whether to roll away or to push for that extra 20. Doesn't get quite far enough, and this could be the opening that Alejandro needs to get his team back into the running of this round. Not quite. Bit far away. Players seeing who has hammer. It'll be Joert with the final shot. Last shot for Sander now. Staying on the right side of the center. A lot of pressure on Antonio right now. I would say an offense 20 is what he needs to put on any significant pressure, and he gets it. Nice shot. Sander getting the 20 though, and we see another tied round as the score goes 2-2. Neither team yet to have a lead. It'll be Sander to open up the third round, giving Alejandro the hammer. Antonio looked like he was trying to roll away a bit. Caught a post and might have left Joert with a backboard here. Could be a little far. Yeah, a little bit too far as Joert rolls to the side, passing the chance over to Alejandro, unable to convert. And an unfortunate drop. Misfire from Sander as he makes a 20 for the other team. Antonio unable to capitalize. Joert with quite the 20. Sander very grateful for that. His opponent making up, or his teammate making up for his earlier mistake. Tied in the cup right now, but interesting situation. The Roaring 20s have 2 pieces on the board, but Antonio and Alejandro with the hammer. This isn't the worst situation with them. They do need to be a bit careful not to give Sander and Joert any 20 opportunities, and the ways they've been shooting, that might be difficult. Looks like Alejandro was going for a double there, and he almost got it too. I hope we get a replay of that. No guarantees on that though. Might just have to go and rewatch that after this is published. And again, after this, the final match will be coming out between Jamie and Linder, the North Stars from the United States of America, going up against Nikki and Arpad, the Fast and Fury 20s out of Hungary. So make sure you subscribe to Chevado's Crokinole to stay tuned for that. Antonio with a nice off and rolling to the outside, almost perfectly behind that post. But Joert unfazed, gets the off. With those 2 red pieces in the 10, I'm sure Alejandro might actually be going for a double here and an angle in. He gets the angle in. Maybe the double wasn't there, but nonetheless, that's a lead in the cup. They need a bit of pressure on Sander now, who gets the 20. But Antonio, more than content to keep playing on the far side of the board away from Joert. It'll be up to Sander to bring this back into the center. Looks like we are just over halfway through our bullets as Alejandro considers what to do. He could roll up a little bit so he lands between the laneways to give Sander a tough shot. Instead, Bit of an opening here for Sander. He could angle in from the right side of his quadrant, going over to the far right side, And you see you're pointing that out, and it looks like he's even pointing out that post. Figure because of that, it's not dead center for a 20, but we'll see what Sander does with this. Catches not the post that Joert pointed out, but staying in the 15. This is where the Roaring 20s want play to be. Antonio doing a great job rolling away, leaving Joert with no easy opportunities. That could have been a mistake, as Alejandro now could be a drop back 20. Really depends what angle he takes us from. If he goes from the left side of his quadrant, it's more than likely to be just a touch. From here, rolling to the outside, if that works as well. Putting pressure again on Sander to bring it in for his partner. Sander even closer to the 20 this time. And unfortunately, that sets Antonio up to drain a 20 of his own. Instead, again, bringing it out. Perhaps I'm suggesting much too aggressive strategy, but Joert drains an open 20. Antonio and Alejandro were doing a great job keeping it to the outside. Alejandro gets the final open 20. I was not keeping track of the shots there. So much pressure on that final shot, and Alejandro does not break as they tie a third round in a row. 12 minutes into this match, and we have seen neither team take the lead. If you didn't know the context, you would think this was the finals, because both these teams are on absolute fire, perhaps looking for some redemption for their losses in the semifinals. And again, just because they lost the semifinals does not mean that these are not top-tier teams, as we can see from their performance so far. Both these teams are shooting very, very well and playing very smartly. Antonio and Alejandro currently up in the cup, playing against the hammer, so they do need to be a little bit careful not to leave any opportunities. And there wasn't much there for Sander anyways. Most likely see Antonio roll out. A very nice shot. That being said, we've seen Joert hit these so many times from the outside, taking his time, not the right line. And you could almost see right away that he knew that wasn't what he wanted. Nonetheless, to Alejandro, staying a little close to the center, but closer to Sander, so no easy 20. Looks like he's considering if from the left side of his quadrant he could get a touch 20. Could be a little bit close to him. I see him more likely ending up on the center on the outside, just like that. Yeah, a little bit too close, and he doesn't get the off with it either. And Antonio, again, beautiful job getting out from the 15. He probably left Joert with a double. Joert doesn't get the double. And this is looking very good for Antonio and Alejandro. Alejandro taking a second to consider the shot he'll take. I don't think they need to be too cautious about giving their opponents a double. The only concern is that Antonio could end up playing on the outside if Sander decides to go for that outside piece. That being said, with not a lot of shots left, it looks like 2 or 3 more for each player. Not sure. Oh, Sander does want to play to the outside. A wise play, getting just behind that post, but it looks like Antonio does have a line at it. He gets it, losing a shooter though. That being said, it could be perhaps because Antonio doesn't want to play to the outside for the rest of the round, which, hey, fair enough. Joert gets the takeout. Alejandro's biggest concern right now should be not setting Sander up with any easy conversions. Goes too far. That was a rollaway he wanted, but too much juice behind it. Sander unable to capitalize, though. And Antonio, this time now, I think, up the right side of his quadrant, should have a 20 here. Not sure the off is guaranteed. This time, Antonio not quite able to get to the outside and not able to get the off either. See what Joert does with this situation. Joert also not able to get the off. Alejandro considering the situation. Right now, Joert and Sander with 20 points on the board, but lowered down to 10 once you take the black piece into account. So still some work for the Roaring Twenties to do on what will be Sander's final shot. If Sander, yeah, this is a tough one for Sander. I think his best option is to go for the angle in off the 1 and the 10, because off in the 20, off the 1 and 15 isn't enough. That will still leave them 5 points short. So he's going for this angle in, and he's really hoping to demote the piece in the 15. I think the double is the only option, but it looks really awkward. They're pointing out the post they want to catch. This will be shot of the year if he's able to get this. Or one of the shots of the year. And not able. With that, Antonio and Alejandro, the first to take a lead in this match, bring the score 5-3 as we go into the 5th round. Joert to open up, giving Antonio the hammer. Joert going a little bit long on the upside. No easy 20 for Alejandro. Looks like he sees the opportunity, and he gets it. I stand corrected. As a team from Spain takes an initial lead, and a strong lead as Antonio also drops a 20. Joert now finding his range, and Alejandro now missing on the open 20 chance. This one doesn't look as clean, but I need to stop doubting these players. That is on me. Sander makes very short work at what I thought was going to be a tough angle. Now we're off to the races. The Roaring Twenties still at a disadvantage, but with Alejandro coming up short, this could be Sander's opportunity to bring his team back into the round. He gets a 20, but not the off. That could be unfortunate if Antonio can drain this over 20, which he does. Yep. Joert now playing to the outside. Gets a nice hide. I think Alejandro will be forced to shoot through Hogan's Alley. I'm not convinced that's there through the diagonal. Gets it. Sander now most likely to angle in. So close. Just a little bit off, and unfortunately a little bit off is almost always a 20 opportunity, which Antonio capitalizes on, and another one left for Alejandro as well. Backboard here, going a little bit strong, but still up a 20, piece in play with the hammer, and 1 or 2 more shots for each player. I believe now this is the final shot for each player now. Pressure on the Roaring Twenties. You're ending up on the outside. All comes down to Sander. Even if Sander gets the off in the 20 though, all Antonio needs is a valid shot. Yep, that does it. Antonio and Alejandro now in striking distance of winning the 3rd place match. Again, if this is like the semifinals, should be a race to 8 points. So a lot of pressure on the Roaring Twenties. They can't afford a loss, and they can't afford a tie. From here on out, it's got to be wins for at least the next 2 rounds. Both teams not wanting to be the first to miss, as we are now 2 circles around the board with nothing but open 20s. Both teams dialed in. Sander, the first to go long. Antonio with a beautiful follow through. Now up 2 in the cup. They are against the hammer, but Joert going long. Alejandro could bring this to a 320 lead. And a 320 lead is so hard to dig yourself out of. Alejandro not able to get it. Joert going for something big. not able to convert. Those follow-through 20s are always difficult. They are almost never a gimme. I shouldn't necessarily say that. Some people are really dialed into their follow-throughs, but nonetheless very tough. And Antonio leaving that in a very interesting spot. We'll see how Joert gets the off. It looks like he's going to go over the center hole. And doesn't get the off. Demotes his own. An unfortunate result from that. Alejandro taking a second to consider his course of action. See Antonio pointing to that one closer to the 15. He doesn't want Alejandro playing to the outside, and that's just because it gives Sander a lot to work with in terms of angling in. And Alejandro does a great job with that post between the two black pieces. I don't think there's a double here for Sander. There could be a bounce back 20. He's most certainly going for that one on the line that Joert is pointing towards. Here are the players debating. And again, these aren't timed matches, which means the players can take the time they need to consider, and very wisely so. There's only a few bullets left, so Sander needs to make this count. Hits the post, but doesn't get what he needs. Antonio keeping it to the outside. At least 3 shots left for the Roaring 20s, so they're certainly not out of this. The pressure is on. See, maybe Joert's going for a bump and run. Takes his own piece out. That hurts. A lot of black on the board. 220 deficit. This could be it, folks. We could see Antonio and Alejandro taking the win. We see Brandon Osborne in the background from the Queen City Crokinole Club getting some video of the third place and finals match going on. I think that seals it. They're getting a nice 20 to wrap things up. But that is all. Antonio and Alejandro have taken the third place spot at the Crokinole World Cup doubles. Congratulations to the team from Spain, and thank you to both the teams for such a well-played match. Not the result that the Roaring 20s wanted, but nonetheless, they went down swinging. We'll see some highlights here. Make sure to stay tuned for the finals of the 2025 Crokinole World Cup between Nikki and Arpad, the Fast and Fury 20s, versus the North Stars, Linder and Jamie from the US of A. That'll be out very shortly. Thank you for tuning into Trevado's Crokinole, and as always, happy flicking.
Yeah.